We should be live. I think we're live. I'll give it a second there. All right, what's going on, D-Bags? Hope you guys are doing well. We're back here again with another episode, the 191st episode of the Dtalks podcast. I'm your host, Darren, Rita. And if you're new here, feel free to connect with me at any of the links down below. And if you enjoy music, podcasts, hooping videos, or comedy, do consider subscribing because we got a whole lot of that going on around here. When you do subscribe, leave a like or hang out with us like you're going to do tonight in the live chat. It helps us share conversations and laughs like these we're going to have tonight with more people. So do consider doing that. Now, before I can introduce you guys to my guest this week, got to talk to you guys a little bit about car insurance. These days, it seems like things just keep going up and up and up in price. It feels like every day we're talking about how expensive things are or how expensive things are going to be. So what are you doing? What are you doing wasting money on car insurance? You get your hometown agency, Kenosha Auto Insurance, specialized for years, literal years, in simple, hassle-free car insurance, helping you and your family get the best rates with touch-free technology that will help you save a lot of money. So what are you waiting for? Give them a call today. Call 262-448-4141. That's 448-4141. The website's KenoshaINS.com. It's on the screen right now. It's linked down below. Give them a call, 262-448-4141. Tell them Rita Dtalks sent you. The worst that could happen is you will get the best rates. Now, with all that good stuff out of the way, I'm excited. I'm pumped, actually, to get to know my guest a little bit more this week and introduce him to you guys as well. He's an extremely, extremely talented journalist, comedian, and fellow podcaster. Let's give a wet detox welcome to Zay Okwata. Is that how you say the last name? Okwata?
That was solid.
I didn't fully.
The T could have been more of a ta.
Ta.
Put a little bit more of a pronunciation.
I had a little too much mayonnaise.
Thank you for asking that, though.
Yeah.
You said a little too much.
I was a little too much mayonnaise on the
funny.
name there.
That's funny.
How are you, man? How are
I'm
you?
good, man. Thanks for inviting me on the show.
Dude, I appreciate you doing this. We were talking before we went live. It was kind of a last-minute thing to get you on. We were talking a couple weeks back, and it's good to finally have you here, though. So I saw you. Actually, we met for the first time in person over at the Laughing Tap. And I mentioned you're a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
Killed it, by the way.
You think?
I thought you killed it.
Mm-hmm.
There was some talent there that night too. And honestly, bro, I've seen you perform a couple of times, and yeah,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you've been really on your shit, man.
In the last month, I've been seeing that too. I've been seeing the growth for sure. It's just I changed my jokes, the type of jokes I was writing, and I'm just focused more on trying to be funny and less smart.
Yeah. You think that's probably helped us quite a bit?
Absolutely. Like, if I want to be the intelligent Dave Chappelle comic, that would eventually come.
Yeah.
But right now, I just got into the game, so let me learn how to like write jokes and perform the jokes.
Yeah.
And once I started focusing on that and stop being like political, so to speak, in my jokes, I started becoming mad funny.
Yeah.
So I just like something I noticed in like the last 5 months or so.
Yeah, because you've been doing it, what, about a year, you said?
A little over a year now.
Okay. That's and mad respect, dude. Especially, this is not something that happens overnight, is getting good at comedy. That's something that anybody who does it can attest to. And to only be a little bit over a year, and honestly, you're doing phenomenal. So I just want to give you the flowers while you're here. I know stand-up comics sometimes get a little weird about getting compliments, but I really do. I really do mean it. You did phenomenal. And I mentioned, too, when I was introducing you, man, you're a journalist. You're also a podcaster as well. And then you've got this comic thing thrown in there as well. How does being a comedian on one hand go with journalism on the other? Because we were talking about this beforehand. I was like, I feel like they're two very different things, and you were correcting me that no, they're not.
I mean, if you think about it, they're not, because comedy is essentially it's a form of communication that solicits laughter, and then you can call it an art. Mm-hmm. And journalism is a form of communication that informs the public or tells stories that might change the public's opinion on certain things, et cetera, et cetera. But the idea of both of them is that you're still telling a story. If you look at what a reporter is doing, like they're telling you a story. Yeah. They're not just telling you facts.
That's
true. Like, for example, like when you're watching the news, the reporter will go like, with the script will read something like, every year 500 kids sit together around the tree. They wear pink shirts. I mean, like they paint a picture. They paint a picture, and like
there's a
cadence and there's a setup, exactly,
middle and end.
And it doesn't necessarily lead to a punchline like it does in comedy. That's the difference.
Yeah.
But they paint a picture. The way the journalist is telling you the story, there's a certain cadence in their voice
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of the same idea. I think it attracts people who have an interest in bringing ideas to light that not a lot of people have necessarily thought about.
Yeah.
Like if you think about some of the funniest jokes is when a comic brings something to light that nobody thinks about, and that's what makes it funny. It's like, oh shit, I didn't even thought about that.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's exactly what journalism
Observational.
is.
Like, very
Observational.
Yeah.
It's observational people
Yeah.
who like to communicate those things they observed.
Yeah.
So if you find that like you're kind of a humorous dude, in which like I was kind of always a class clown growing up, and I was always the funniest person in every friend group I've ever been in. Kind of a little flex there.
Yeah,
I'm just being honest though.
You gotta let them know.
It's just what it is. And like, so that kind of told me with my journalistic chops, I'm like, damn, let me give comedy a try.
Yeah.
And
Would you? So, because we were
so they are similar.
Yeah, and we were kind of speaking. I think you bring up some very valid points, and I think you're right in that regard. And we were talking before we went live, sort of about kind of what you're looking to do with your life, and especially with journalism. You take it very seriously. I wonder, do you think, because of what we were just talking about, the similarities between comedy and journalism, do you think that that's what maybe why people like or shows like The Daily Show and with Jon Stewart or Trevor Noah now?
Absolutely.
Do you think that's why they're so popular? And would you ever be interested in maybe doing something like that, bringing the best of both worlds? Because I could see it.
Something like that on my own. I could see it. Something like that on my own terms. But those guys are just so corny nowadays.
You think
it's
so?
Just like, yeah.
I think The Daily Show is a little
corny.
bit.
All of those like political comedy. It's so propaganda driven. You know?
So?
Like I remember, I don't care what anyone's COVID ideologies were and their perspectives. Yeah. Your shit is your shit. What you think is what you think. I'm not gonna impose mine on you. I don't care. But I remember during the quarantine and the whole COVID situation on the Stephen Colbert show, this guy had a bunch of people in vaccine costumes.
Really?
like they were dressing in syringes, like syringe costumes, like pretending to be vaccines.
Yeah.
And they were doing a vaccine dance. And is this comedy?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny to make fun of.
It's funny to laugh at, yeah. But like,
maybe that's not what they were going for.
Are you trying to be laughed at or be laughed with?
Be in on the.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'll say I think especially Trevor Noah is a super bright dude. I do think he can be really funny, and some of the correspondents are really funny. But I do kind of agree. I think a lot of it is, I won't say in bad faith, but sometimes it's like softballs. Like they're like, let's go to a Trump rally and make fun of. And don't get me wrong, Jordan Klepper, that guy, I think he's done some really good stuff. But other times it's like they're just like
how many Trump rallies do we like? We get it. You're stupid.
Well, it's like who. In reality, who that you know that is like a normal, cool person to talk to is going to any political rally, has the time and is willing to go to any political rally.
This is fair.
Nobody that you want to spend time with is at any type of rally, and I'll stand on that because there's
you can find the weirdest people at those rallies.
Because who the fuck,
I saw a Fox News interview one time of and they were at a liberal rally.
Oh
and
God.
They were just asking people to scream into the microphone because you know how like the joke is like liberals are always screaming.
Yeah. And I'm sure people were
doing it.
They got
people with like green, purple hair, and these
so
women are just like screaming as loud as they can into the microphone.
Jesus.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's just kind of goofy. It's like, of course, it's like, I don't know. It's like if I go to the most extreme like heavy metal rock festival and I'm like asking people how they feel about fucking jazz music or like new age like hip hop, like of course they're gonna we already know what they think. It's like when you go to a Trump rally and you're like hey, what do you think, was the election stolen? It's like, don't get me wrong, it's fun every once in a while to just see like, oh, this is how crazy it can get. You know, I'm not saying there's no value in showing that, but over and over again can be a little repetitive.
Yeah,
you know? It's like I get it.
We know.
I get it.
What are you trying to tell us at this point? We can't laugh at the same jokes over and over.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, that's fair. It could be tough, but maybe maybe you could do something different. Maybe you could bring a new energy to that.
Eventually, but like I said, like political jokes are hard.
Yeah,
They're hard.
that's
That's
fair.
what makes Dave Chappelle so good, because like he can walk that line of political jokes and still make the majority of people laugh. Obviously, there are people who are always going to be upset and feel like because they're offended,
Yeah,
me being offended matters and you need to handle that. And there's always going to be that demographic of people. But yeah, Chappelle being able to like just kind of walk that line and just play with that the political ideologies inside of his comedy a little bit,
yeah,
and get away with it for so many years.
yeah.
That's what makes him the GOAT, and he's very good at it, but it is tough.
I would
tough.
say it's definitely not easy. I mean, even just like the people we're bringing up before that, right? Like they've had missteps, and we're talking about how maybe it's corny, maybe it's whatever. It's like with somebody like him, he's been doing this for a while, man, and he's very conversational. In his
Like,
approach.
for example, I'm gonna tell you a joke that I got massive crickets over because it's kind of political, but objectively, it's funny.
Okay.
But because it's political and like you're on stage, it's a little. But if you said
Okay.
it amongst your friends, people will probably laugh.
Okay.
This was during the whole Kyrie Irving situation with the anti-Semitism. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then, so he got in massive trouble for tweeting out something that was labeled as anti-Semitism.
It was like an Alex Jones documentary link.
No,
or something?
it was just he just tweeted out a link to a documentary, that the Anti-Defamation League said had anti-Semitic tropes in it.
Okay. Yeah.
So the NBA damn near crucified him. They suspended him for they suspended him indefinitely, fined him $500,000, and then they also did something. Oh, they said he had to go through sensitivity training.
I did see that. Yeah.
And then there was a fourth thing. So they whooped his ass.
Yeah.
And this was around the same time when that Brett Favre was in his scandal where he he took money from the city of Jackson, Mississippi.
Yeah.
To he took money from the city of Jackson, Mississippi.
It was like, wasn't he doing some charity and he ripped it off
to set up? And he took money from a charity from Jackson, Mississippi, to set up a volleyball arena at his daughter's school under his name. So it would have been the Brett Favre Center. That was his intention.
Yeah.
And this is around the same time. And the news media wasn't talking about this much, but they're on top of Kyrie Irving and some bullshit. Like, we can debate whether it was anti-Semitic or not. You know what I'm saying? But this guy we saw what he did, and no one's talking about.
He stole
my
the cash,
joke was, man, we've come a long way as people, but you can't tell me racism doesn't exist doesn't exist still. I mean, just look at what happened with Brett Favre and Kyrie. Brett Favre stole millions of dollars from some of the poorest people in America, and the media didn't bat an eye. Kyrie Irving tweets a link to a documentary, and the media goes into a frenzy. You would have thought he slapped a white woman. Objectively, that's kind of funny because, black guy, white woman, the joke behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You better not try that, boy. The joke behind it. Everybody knows that. If you said that amongst your friends, people would probably have laughed, but it's kind of political. And
well, it depends too if because you're doing it at probably an open mic or something.
It wasn't an open mic.
Yeah, and that's the thing too with I think the difference in somebody like a Dave Chappelle versus people that are trying to come up in comedy.
He's built a reputation.
Yeah, and it's if the people that came to the stadium bought a ticket to see him, they want to see that kind of comedy. They're right. So it's maybe an open mic. That's what I've noticed just from even going is some people will say some shit that I think is fucking hilarious, and I can see other people in the crowd and grimacing. I'm like, we're at a comedy show. That was funny. Come
stop
on.
it. That was funny.
I was like, we're at a comedy show.
One where I got 50% oohs. They were offended by it.
Oh,
and
shit.
then other 50%, they were laughing.
Okay.
But here's the funny thing, though. It was a joke about black people. I was making fun of I was really making fun of white people, but I said something what would have been offensive to black people.
Yeah.
and I had white people in the crowd being offended
on behalf of
on
black
behalf
people.
of
Yeah. They're like,
oh my
they're like,
God,
oh, that's so fucked up. Why would you do that to yourself? Oh my God. Yeah, dude. It's
do you not realize that you're being extremely racist by doing that right now?
Yeah.
It's like you're fathering me, basically.
They're white knighting you.
White knighting. Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't realize that. But like, yeah. And then so my joke was I usually use it to close on my set if I had a good set. My joke was, okay, I'm happy I didn't bomb today, because bombing can be super humiliating, man. Like, especially when you bomb in front of white people. Let me explain. Because when you're bombing, everybody looks up at you with a serious look on their face. Mm-hmm. And they're looking up at you because obviously you're on stage. And the last time this many white people looked up at a nigga, he was swinging from a tree.
Jesus Christ. And people were offended on your behalf.
50% of the people were laughing because it's objectively funny. 50% of the people were like, oh. And then my follow-up joke was like, now I feel like I'm swinging from a tree, like based off of the way they were looking
reaction.
at me.
Yeah,
and I'm
Jesus Christ.
and then I followed that up with I was like, why are y'all mad? Y'all the ones who did the shit.
Yeah.
Like you're literally being offended because of shit you did that I'm like being humble enough to joke about.
Yeah.
Like, think about arrogant that actually is.
That's hilarious.
Like, that's the thing they don't realize. It's like the white knighting.
But that's good. I mean, that's pretty. I think it's even funnier that you were quick on your feet, though, to recognize it and call it out and make another joke out of it. You know, that's a big thing in comedy. Especially, it's something that I've been entertaining the thought of getting on stage for a while, and I really badly want to. I just gotta work on the material. But that's something in the research I've done. It's like you just have to be in the moment and present and be able to have those quick wits.
Yeah.
And you had it right there. So that's fucking hilarious.
It's. Even if you're bombing, you just have to keep going. People always ask, like, what do you do when, like, you say a joke? Or they'll say, like, I'm too afraid to try stand up because I don't want to say a joke and then nobody laughs at it. In that case, you just keep going.
Yeah.
It's like anything else. You're playing a basketball game and you take a shot and you miss a shot. What do? You just stop playing?
No,
or like you worry, but you just run back on defense. You keep playing. You know, finish the rest of your set. Like, you're eventually gonna get better. You will have to embarrass yourself. That's the thing about with other arts. You got to embarrass yourself, struggle in private. With stand up, it has to be in public in front of other people.
Yeah.
Like, you have to. Like, there are times, like, not everybody is gonna be funny right away. Most people are not gonna be funny right away. In the open mic circuit, where everyone's like learning their craft and building their craft, there are people who are like more seasoned comics who've been around longer, who I would say it stems from insecurity. They're not very motivating to the newer comics. Like, for example, everybody bombs, but let's say a newer comic is bombing, you'll hear some people in the back who are a little bit more seasoned at it, like snickering because you're like laughing at you because you're bombing. It's like, damn. And it's just those little things about stand up.
It's kind of toxic.
That's what
makes
makes
you up.
It's
almost a rite of. Do you think it's a rite of passage? Do you think it makes people get better faster, or do you think it's a little destructive?
Depends on how big your ego is. I have a big ego, so
it can hurt a little bit.
No, I mean, sure, it hurt, but when you have a big ego, I feel like it goes both ways. But the way my big ego works is I use pain, embarrassment as fuel.
Okay.
So, like, I've had those times when, like, I had a really bad set and I looked at the video that I recorded my set on. I watched the video later, and I'll hear comics snickering in the background because I'm not doing good. Damn. Yeah. So that type of shit will be like, all right.
Okay. I'm going to get in the gym.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to get in the gym.
I'm going to start writing, yeah.
So
do you think
it depends on how you take it.
Yeah. Do you think with the open mic circuits, and I've heard this from some comics that I was kind of talking to, that sometimes it can be difficult to know, like, sometimes the validity of a joke, if it's funny in the open mic circuit, only because sometimes if it's full of just comics, Because sometimes,
Yeah.
depending on if people are like really focused on like, oh, this is what I'm gonna go up and say tonight. This is what I'm whatever. Obviously, the seasoned guys, they know what they're doing. They can be there and actually watch what you're doing, and maybe they'll make fun of it, or they'll actually think it's funny, whatever. But some guys are just so worried. I know if I went, let's say next week, and I was going on stage, I'm probably blacking out the whole rest of the night before I go up, just focused on like, this is what I have to do.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm focused on me and what I have to do, and if I'm funny, am I being funny? And do you think it's difficult sometimes to get laughs from other comics?
I think it depends on how early you go. So here's the thing. It kind of filters itself out. If you go early, you have a chance to grab the people who are just audience members before they leave, because they're not going to stay the whole night. It's like 2 hours of like amateur comics. 80% aren't going to be funny. No one's staying the whole night for that. So they'll stay for like the first 10 comics. So if you go early, you get the audience that aren't comics. And then after like the first 10, they start to leave.
Yeah.
But what happens now? Comics start to finish their set. So now they can just watch comedy and not have to think about their set.
Yeah.
And then what happens is, okay, now you have comedians in the audience that you can make laugh.
Yeah, that's true.
To test. So it kind of like filters itself out. But however, it is harder to make comedians laugh just because of that competitive factor. Like if you had at the end of the day, it's still an art. Everybody wants to be the best at it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm going to listen to your set, but I'm not going to die laughing at your jokes. You know what I mean?
I got you. It's almost like if, your girl starts laughing at your homie's joke a little too hard, you're like,
damn near. Yeah.
Like, holy shit, he not that funny.
Exactly.
There's just so I'm funnier than his ass.
I don't know if this makes me a jealous person or a competitive person, because stand-up isn't like sports.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're a basketball player and like you say to yourself and you're watching another player play, and you look at it and you're like, I'm better than him, that hits different. It's not as bad as a comic seeing another comic on stage like kill and be like, man, he's not even that funny. I'm better. That looks like hating.
It's bitterness.
But with that looks like bitterness in comedy.
Yeah.
But with sports, it looks like competitiveness. So I'm not sure if I'm being competitive or bitter.
It's something.
That's a question I've been asking myself.
It's a fine line, right? Because I know I had a similar issue when I was like, because I played college basketball, so it was a big part of my life.
You played basketball?
Yeah.
Damn.
I still play. Yeah, I still play. But I was big, so basketball was like my whole life. And so I have that same thing where it was like all the time, and I'm a short white dude, and I have a man bun now when I'm playing. So you can imagine the stigma when I walk into a gym. People don't think I'm very good. But even then, it was just I'm just a short little white guy. So I kind of had like that complex too. Like, I really have to kill because people don't think whatever. And you have this competitiveness where you're just like stacking up every single person. You're eyeing them up like, I'm okay, he's whatever. He ain't shit. And you're beating people down. You're just trying to tear other people down when you're playing against them. Off the court, it's whatever. But it can be corrosive in arts, because I was getting into music, and at first I'm having a similar thing where I'm like, oh, this person's trying to do this too. Like, man, fuck them. I'm gonna make better songs. I'm gonna make better whatever. It's like, no, you just got to make the best music you can make.
Yeah.
Or if you're, in the sense of a comic, like, you just got to be the funniest version of you. And I think it's better to look at it that way than to be like, man, fuck him. But it's hard not to, because that's human nature.
It's human nature.
Yeah, to compare
and
ourselves.
It's like, I know I've never been that type of dude.
Yeah.
It feels different when you're because there's good-natured competition and bad-natured competition.
Exactly, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, here's the good...
athletes, they have good-natured competition.
Yeah.
Like somebody like Larry Bird and Magic Johnson.
They're pushing each other to get better.
Exactly.
Whereas if you go to a
arts,
show,
it's hard for it to continue to be good-natured. So you are right. Whereas like if you're in arts, you need to focus more on staying on your lane as opposed to being better or funnier than other people.
And I think too, dude, is the collaborative sense of art in general is like I think there's just so much more upside on building a community with other people that do the same thing as you, because it's lonely, dude. Like doing like your journey as a stand-up comic, no one else is going to go through that. There's no one else who's going to do the same thing and the same jokes in the same way that you're going to do, and it's coming from the same place that you're coming from. And that's what makes it unique, But the thing is, there are other people that are maybe not, they don't have the same experience, but they're also trying to do this thing in their own way. And when you can find a way to cultivate like a positive environment where people are like all wanting everybody to win, I just think it's gonna make everybody's gonna be able to make way better stuff if they're not in like this like survivor mindset, like, oh, I just gotta get what's mine and I gotta keep everyone off my plate and these fans are mine and I don't want anybody else. I kind of look at it, I guess to kind of round that out, and what I'm trying to get at is like if you look at like some of the best people in like hip hop, for instance. It's not that they were the greatest for their run, which they had phenomenal runs, but they also put on the next person. Like, you look at Dr. Dre, fucking NW, phenomenal, right? But then he signs one of the biggest artists ever, Eminem, who then has a huge run, who then signs 50 Cent, one of the biggest artists ever. And it's like the same thing with Jay-Z, he's signing J. Cole and all these other people. I think if you can put other people on in positions to win, I think that says almost more about the greatness that somebody has in whatever field it is than whatever they accomplished individually, which I think is crazy.
Absolutely.
And I just think there's something to that. I don't know what it is.
And that's what makes Rogan such a likable guy.
Yeah.
Because he does that.
Yeah.
And his numbers are so massive too.
He could change your life. If you went on the show tomorrow, your life will be completely 180.
Seriously, people start watching my podcast.
Yeah,
like dead ass.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you wouldn't. Yeah, that's what's great. It's
like he gives you he gives you an audience.
Yeah, especially I think that's crazy. Like, and he does that. I believe. I don't know if this is still the case. I know as of like a couple years ago, he was doing still all the scheduling himself.
He still does it.
He does still do it. That's wild. I've kind of tuned out a little bit.
I think maybe someone like will probably
vet people for him
to ask like, what do you think about this guy? Like, this is a hot topic in society right now. Like, would you like to have him on the show?
Yeah, this
guy's been trending lately. Would you like to talk about it?
Yeah.
But and they bring it through him, and then he has to give it the green light. That's probably what happens now, I would assume.
But I think that's why, and I think I don't know. I mean, obviously things can get clicky and whatnot, but I think if you just put on for all the people that you genuinely believe in, and I think if everybody just supports each other a little bit more, and comics, if you're at an open mic, stay as long as you can to root for the other comic and give them some feedback. I think that's good too, But so aside from the comedy, then you mentioned there the podcast. How does comedy and the journalism kind of intertwine into the podcast that you've got? And I want you to plug it right here too. I want to name drop
the Greatly Destined Podcast. That's what's called on YouTube, the Greatly Destined Podcast. On Instagram is the TGD Podcast, and also on TikTok, the TGD Podcast.
There we go.
That came up because I love interviewing people. I mean, I'm a journalist at heart. That was my first passion. The comedy came later. Comedy came in the last. Comedy was an idea that came into my head about 2 years ago, and then I acted on it last year.
That's dope.
And I immediately fell in love with it. So that's one of my passions now. I've proven to myself that you definitely can have multiple passions in life, no doubt.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes I probably used to deal with this too. Sometimes in society, we get programmed to just look at ourselves as one thing,
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what makes me so interesting, is that like a journalist, a comedian, oh wow, and then a podcaster, like the podcast I feel like kind of takes the best of both. And I was mentioning this, and it does.
I was mentioning this to you before we went live, and I want to shout it out again. You interviewed one of Jeffrey Dahmer's real neighbors.
Yeah.
And I know he had done, I think he's done a couple other interviews as well.
He's been on Netflix, and he's featured on A&E.
He's got a book now too, right?
He also has a book.
Yeah, and I'm not all the way through it, but I was like part of the way through, maybe like a quarter or so, and then I'm even just reading some of the feedback you're getting on it. Like, people are taking notice, and I did as well, of just the level of professionalism and the way that you were able to. We were joking about it before we went live. You mentioned a friend of yours was like, "Man, why are you joking about whatever? This is a serious thing, right?" And I was arguing like, well, dude, if this is a serious thing and you want to get to, more vulnerable and authentic topics and places in the conversation, the tool of comedy drops people's guard. It like allows people to be their real self when you can, like, in the most dire or serious of conversations, be able to still make somebody laugh.
Just loosens them up a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that's where you're gonna find the gems. That's where you're gonna really get to the bottom of things. And so I again want to give you your flowers on that. But
Appreciate
I
it.
think
Thank you.
I think people can tell, man. And what was that experience like? First off, how'd you get in touch with his neighbor, and how did that play out?
So actually, I knew I wanted to get my hands on the Dahmer story once the Netflix series came out.
Mm-hmm.
Just being in Milwaukee and while watching it, and just as large as the whole Dahmer situation is.
Yeah.
And I actually live very close to where all of that stuff is going down. I live in that neighborhood.
Wow. Yeah.
I live like a couple blocks away from it. And being in Milwaukee, living in Milwaukee, watching that on Netflix and then watching the documentary later, it just made it feel so real. You know, Milwaukee actually had the lowest viewership out of any city in the country that watched that Netflix series.
Really?
Because it's real to them.
Yeah.
Like, the media has turned Jeffrey Dahmer into Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, he's like a celebrity almost.
Like, he's a fictional figure almost.
People were, I think, there was a big controversy.
There's
people dressing
fan
up.
bases.
Yeah.
People dress as him for Halloween.
Yeah.
Their fan pages on social media. They made him a Freddy Krueger adjacent.
Yeah.
People don't look at Jeff Dahmer, as a human being.
Yeah, that
who
killed
was
people.
living here in Milwaukee on 20th Street that was killing and eating motherfuckers.
Yeah, yeah, that's wild, bro. And they
probably not seasoning them with his white ass.
Yeah, his white. No, not with those glasses, bro. You don't know anything about that. But dude, it's like there are people I know. I'm not gonna put nobody on blast. I know women that think he is attractive.
I see that on social media.
That's wild to me. Could you imagine?
The psychology of a woman is always. I don't know if any scientist in the world will ever be able to put the T on that.
There's no way for you to capture the essence.
You can't. There are ladies out here that are attracted to killers, bro.
Serial killers. And
like, you
cannibals.
know, he was out here killing motherfuckers and eating ass, literally eating ass,
yeah.
and you're attracted to him.
He did, yeah. The highest level of ass
He had
eatery.
booty cheeks in his mouth, and you're attracted to him.
Yeah,
Come on now.
What do you think the macros is on some booty cheeks for
macros?
Real? Yeah, what do you think the macros? You think he was tracking his diet? You think he had any dietary tracking? You think he was trying to bulk up?
You think booty
slim down?
Are you asking if booty cheeks
calories?
Has any calories?
Yeah, what is it? What is the calories? I'm trying to figure out, like, what's the protein, carbohydrates, the complex. What are we talking?
I feel like it depends on the person.
Yeah, he was.
Let me ask you
men,
this question.
right?
What would be a healthier person to eat? Would it be like a fat person or a muscular person? I feel like a fat person has a lot of flesh.
They would probably.
They'll fill you up and like be for survival.
I think you'd want like dad bod, because that's like skinny fat, right? Where it's like there's still some lean meat because that's where the protein is, or it's not terrible, but you have a little bit of fat for some flavor.
Why do we sound like cannibalists right now?
I don't know.
We're really going into that conversation.
It's Milwaukee, bro. It's rubbing off on us. He's not far. He's not far from us. So, how'd you get in touch with his neighbor? I forget his name off the top of my head.
Vernell Bass.
Bass.
So I was watching the Netflix series and I immediately realized like I wanted to get on that interview. So I wanted to interview somebody who was connected to it. So me being a reporter, I thought, okay, maybe I get a journalist. I forgot what his name is. It's Jeff something. Was the journalist who worked for TMJ4, the NBC affiliate here in Milwaukee at the time in 1991. He broke the news.
Oh wow!
Like, he was the first reporter on the scene. So, and he still lives here in Milwaukee. He like works for the mayor's office now. So I contacted him. I wanted him to get on the show. He said he politely declined.
Yeah.
So then I was in kind of a rut. I didn't know who to contact. There's a guy who I actually work with at PBS who worked with the Milwaukee Sentinel at the time. I didn't want to get him on the show because of conflict of interest. Like, we work at the same place and our regular job. So I didn't want to get him on the show. So now I was like at a loss.
Dead end.
And then I watched the documentary again. And I'm like, Vernell Bass. Got on Facebook, looked this dude up on Facebook, DM'd him.
End of
easy.
story. And you got
End
him.
of story.
Yeah. That's sweet, dude.
End of story.
And you did a phenomenal. And again, I haven't gone through the whole thing yet. I plan on watching the rest of it. But you did, from what I saw, you were just conducted a very well done interview.
Thank you.
I'm curious. Again, I haven't gone to the whole thing. What is something after you had some time to let that sit and like digest all the information that was just given to you, that you were like, holy shit, like what was like one thing that was like a big takeaway that after you had some time to sit with it? Because obviously when you're doing an interview, as you're in the moment, you're getting through the things you got to get through. After you had some time to sit with it, what were your thoughts?
Are you talking about like
just the interview with him, like thoughts on the situation, his perspective, anything new he brought to light?
the craziest thing that shocked me?
He was I thought part of your interview, I'm pretty sure there was a portion that I was listening to where I think you actually cracked a joke there where you were talking about like the thing about him handing out sandwiches and how that like wasn't actually a real thing.
Okay, so that was
I thought that was kind of interesting because that's a myth, right? That he was like
the sandwich thing wasn't so. Vernell Bass, did you watch the series?
I didn't watch the series. No.
Okay.
Yours is this is what I've seen is your stuff. So I haven't seen this.
So there was a lady on the show whose name was I'm forgetting what her name was, but she was playing Glenda Cleveland. Glenda Cleveland was her name. So
Okay.
she portrayed the character Glenda Cleveland, who was a real life woman in Milwaukee around the Jeffrey Dahmer situation. Glenda Cleveland was the supposed neighbor in the Netflix series, but in real life, she actually wasn't even living in the building. She lived in a building across like the street.
Oh, okay.
But she was the one who called the police on who was there when the police showed up when Jeffrey Dahmer was taking an Asian kid back into his apartment after he drugged him. So the movie, so Netflix decided, because Glenda Cleveland, this is what Vernal said, because Glenda Cleveland has passed away now, we can just take her, use her as the character, and say she was the neighbor, so we don't have to pay anybody who's still alive for their likeness, who was the actual neighbor.
Yeah.
So that's what Vernell Bass's idea was, that why they didn't make a character out of him and his wife at the time, a woman named Pamela Bass. And Pamela Bass, according to Vernal, they're divorced now. According to Vernal, he believed that Pamela was kind of like, like dipping into 15 minutes of fame a little bit too much, with all the media cameras coming around asking questions like, what was it like living next to Jeffrey Dahmer? Because they essentially became celebrities after that. Everybody across America knew them because they were Jeffrey Dahmer's neighbors right across the hall, closest access. So local news was interviewing them, national news, radio shows, so they became known. And what Vernal was saying was that Pamela began to make up stories that weren't true. Like, after a while, after 5 years removed of the Jeffrey Dahmer situation, people aren't going to care about it as much.
Yeah.
But then she's like, oh, there was a time when he made me a sandwich, and this is something nobody's ever heard. So, oh, yes, sandwich. I never heard that before.
Wow,
so
sandwich.
It brings exactly. So that's what Vernon was saying. Like it brings attention back to her. So she would start certain rumors, and the sandwich was one of them. And then that's how that rumor got out there. So you see it in the Netflix series where Jeffrey Dahmer offers his neighbor a sandwich, and that just never happened.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And the lady, the neighbor herself, just wasn't even his neighbor.
Yeah, isn't that kind of crazy
shocking.
how a myth like that could just like spiral and like snowball into something that ends up being, now it's in a movie that's like.
But I think the producers knew that was just a myth. It's a myth that they wanted to run with because it was cheaper for them to run with.
Yeah,
so.
It's entertaining. People are like, wow, that's so neat. Why would he,
I feel like if they made it Vernell Bass, it would have been more entertaining because it would have been man to man. Like, it would have been a man that was curious about what was in Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment. A man who has to protect his. I don't know. Just the writer in my mind, that would have been more of an interesting dynamic as opposed to a single woman.
I could see it either way. I think maybe
I could see it either way, but I personally felt like it may have been more interesting if they just made it Bernal Bass as the neighbor.
I think it is. I think it's kind of wild that they chose somebody that, or if obviously this is alleged, we don't know if that's exactly why they did it, but I'm sure that played a factor into why they chose the character that they did, is that they were passed away. I think that's kind of wild. But he was. I'm not like super big on the Dahmer lore. Wasn't he into? It was like mostly men, right? Wasn't that his
Dahmer
victims?
was gay. Yeah.
Yeah, they were all men. Were his victims?
He was gay.
So it's like I think maybe that aspect of having it also be a man might have been something to play on, like that. That would have been kind of interesting, especially the time period.
Exactly, and
there wasn't a lot of
that's what I'm saying.
Openness towards that.
It would have been better if they just made it Bernal Bass.
Yeah, that's interesting to think about. I think it's just wild how popular, like we were talking about earlier, that it's gotten.
And then him and Bernal Bass actually, in the interview, I was talking about how they actually had a close relationship.
Oh, they spoke.
Like, as close as neighbors, friendly neighbors get.
Cordial.
Cordial neighbors get. Like, they would invite each other into their apartments every now and then for a beer, ask to borrow cigarettes. Jeffrey Dahmer actually lended Vernell $60 one time to help him buy a gift for his sister because he didn't have money. And so, like, yeah, they were getting that type of close as neighbors go.
Yeah, dude.
Just friendly, supportive neighbors. And, like, if you put that into the movie and behind closed doors, he's a fucking serial killer.
Yeah.
That's way more interesting than
a
random lady who called the cops once.
Why do you think serial killers in general are so almost fetishized in like media sense? Why are they so sought after?
Because it's an interesting story. It's a story we can never understand. I think that's why we watch content. That's why we watch entertainment. It's something that takes us away and keeps our mind off of our everyday lives. A serial killer, that's something that we can never put our fingers on, you know what I'm saying? That's something that we can never pinpoint, like what makes them so evil. Obviously, childhood trauma and all of that, but there are other people who have childhood trauma that aren't serial killers.
Yeah.
So it's the mystery behind them essentially.
You think, the mystery that drives the interest? I could see
Definitely.
that. I have friends that are big into just anything to do with like killer stories and stuff, like serial killer stuff. It's popular. It's a popular genre of stuff.
I've noticed it's a big thing amongst women.
Yeah. There's the podcast. What is it? The murder mystery podcasts are big.
Like if you look at my comments, it is a lot of ladies in the comments.
Yeah, they were looking for some Dahmer content. You know, that's what
very
it was.
Interesting.
It's kind of wild. So pivoting from there, then, right? So I think you really showed your journalistic chops on that interview, and that's why I wanted to touch on it a little bit. And kind of speaking of your journalistic chops,
that video's doing well too.
That's your best video, I think, right? Viewership wise,
30,000 views so far.
But so you work with PBS as well. What's that about, man? What are you doing over at PBS? First off, congrats, because that's awesome, especially if journalism is something that you want to be involved with. What are you doing over there, man? Let us know what's happening.
PBS, I'm a reporter and producer on a show called Black Nouveau.
Okay.
And I've been with them since January of last year. My first story aired with them in March of last year.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean it's real cool.
Favorite story that you've worked on?
Probably my first one. Are you like a big time basketball fan?
Pretty big. I don't really follow
Do
a
you
lot of pro
know
stuff
who
as much
Patrick
anymore.
Baldwin Jr. is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was my first story with PBS. I interviewed him and his dad because his dad was his coach last year.
Yeah.
You saw a clip of the interview?
Yeah, I saw. It was
on
on
my
your
Instagram.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, was it getting viral?
Yeah, no, I saw a clip of that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But that was probably my favorite interview so far, just because of the notoriety of it.
Yeah. What is that like when you're interviewing? I saw too. You got to maybe it was on Instagram or something. You got to sit down with Kyle Korver for a few minutes at like a practice or something.
Yeah, that was a few years ago. What was your question? I'm sorry, I kind of cut you off.
I was going to say, what is like? How do you get into the right mindset to interview somebody like when they're like a big name? Because it's different. Obviously, even myself, when I'm interviewing people, sometimes I'm interviewing people that are just my friend, someone I know, right? And other times I'm interviewing somebody that maybe has like 600,000, 800,000 followers on social media or something. How do you manage that when like this person is like, oh, they're like for real, like they're relevant right now, and I'm trying to come up. How do you approach that? Do you approach it any differently?
I approach it definitely differently. Like the Dahmer interview, for example, because the Netflix special just came out, I knew I had to make sure to upgrade my cameras for that one episode. So like if you notice, there was a difference in the video quality, and I had to pay. I usually do everything myself with the editing, the setting up, the audio, setting up the audio, and I had to pay I had to pay a friend to help me do all that. He's good with audio and all that tech stuff.
Yeah.
And I had to pay him to help me for that specific interview.
You're like, I need everything on lock. We're not messing
what
this
I would
up.
say, is when with those certain things, I want someone to handle all of the equipment, technology, and let me just focus on the questions.
Being the best,
Being
interviewer,
the best
journalist.
interviewer, exactly.
Yeah.
So with big time interviews like that, I feel like that's probably how I will prepare. Just understand that it's a little bit more serious and invest a little bit more, so because I understand that I'm gonna get more eyeballs. I knew I was gonna get. I wasn't expecting. My goal was 30,000, which I'm about to reach, 30,000 views. But the expectation was 10,000.
Okay.
But I knew it was going to be a lot of views because of the interview itself. Like a lot of people would like to hear from Jeffrey Dahmer's neighbor. Yeah. So I anticipated that. So therefore, I made sure my camera quality was better. I paid a friend to bring his Sony A7 III, like a lot better camera than I have. Yeah. And then he just did all those things for me.
That's got to be kind of exciting, knowing going into something like, especially, when you're trying to start up your own thing, you're doing your own stuff. I mean, you're like 11 episodes in now, we were talking. And, you're grinding, you're putting a lot of your own money and your own time up, and you're just trying to get this thing off the ground. But it's got to be pretty exciting, like leading up to something that you're like, I've got a pretty good idea this is going to do well. Like this is going to do at least better than what I've been doing because of the notoriety of the person. And that's got to be exciting and a little bit validating as well. Like, the work I'm putting in is worth it, and the skills, even just in getting this done, whether it's
noticed. That's what mattered the most to me. Yeah, everyone in the comments saying like good interview. Like I'm really like, you asked the right questions, you made him feel comfortable. It's just like people noticing that the interview was good. Yeah, that's what makes me feel.
Yeah, it's important, and that being seen, getting those eyeballs, and just getting the eyeballs and the traffic will then hopefully correlate to people checking out some other stuff and seeing like, man, this guy's he's about it. Like he can really do it. I think that's what's cool about those big moments, And it helps. I think you rose to the occasion, right? You had these things that you saw as like holes in your game or things you didn't want to deal with in that type of scenario, and you're like, I'm gonna get these done. I'm gonna outsource this so I can just be the best. And I think that was the right move, 100%. But you said we were talking before we went live, talking Milwaukee. We're talking down. We're talking being around the area. You've been in Milwaukee like a year now. You said
just about a year.
About a year. And we were talking before we went live. You're a single guy.
Yes, sir.
How is dating in the city of Milwaukee?
Dating in the city of Milwaukee.
Are you dating, or is it something that you're just like?
You talking about casual dating?
Is it like if it happens, it happens, or are you like actively like on sites trying to meet people?
I casually date, yeah.
Okay. What's the city of Milwaukee look like on the dating scene?
Collegey.
Collegey? How old are you, by the way?
I'm 24.
24. Okay.
Like if you go out, I noticed. There's like on Brady Street or Water Street. Yeah. I've noticed like there's a lot of college kids, and they just kind of want to hang out with college kids. You know what I'm saying?
Do you feel left out being 24? I'm 24 as well. So I graduated.
I'm starting to feel like older. I'm starting to feel and like I'll go to the bar and like Marquette girls, UWM girls. They're 21. I'm 24. That's cool. Yeah. Talking to them, saucing them. Flirting, it's working,
doing what you gotta do,
but then get the number. But this is the college girls at least. But then, nice over, we part ways, and then nothing comes of it. Because I'm thinking like, okay, like, because they're in their little because I remember what my mindset was like when I was in college on the campus. Like, you're not really trying to, like, you live in a little bubble, and like that's just the way your mind works. Like and you're not really like trying to make friends with anyone or talk to anyone who doesn't go to your school.
It's like I kind of think of it as
you're still in that school mindset,
You're in and you're almost in like like a pre-adult limbo. Like it's like, yeah, it's a little bit more like the real world, but it's like you're still like in a fucking dorm, bro. Like you're in a dorm.
It's
you
a
still
taste
have,
of what the real world's gonna be.
yeah, but it's not fully there yet.
It's
so
not
like,
fully there yet. The only thing is, it's the real world, like emotionally and like when it comes to responsibility. So your mom's no longer there to tell you to get your homework done, clean your room, and none of that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's when it's starting to become like, that's the taste you're starting to get, and
Yeah.
like mom's not there to, like, you had a bad night. You, like, let's say like a college girl or something, freshman girl, had a bad night with her friends. Somebody said something, made her feel bad. In high school, she would have come home crying. A good mother would know, babe, what's wrong? What happened?
Yeah.
Oh, this happened. Caitlin said this to me tonight, and Maria just watched her, and I feel terrible. And then that would have happened in high school. But now in college, it gets even cattier, and you ain't got mama to go home and talk to. So sit like that is
yeah, it can be
that's
difficult.
the stuff that creates more of the real life sense.
Yeah, and I think it's you're like a step, but you're not fully there. So maybe that's like where
It's just a little taste.
Sometimes that's where I think the disconnect. And it's not like we're fucking old, but like as 24-year-olds, you know, when you've already graduated, you've already gone through college. It's like sometimes there is.
We are
like,
in the beginning of the real world.
Yeah, and they're still in like they still have a little bit of a cushion where it's like, man, they still have a TA if they need it. They have a question or they whatever. Like, who the fuck do you go to if there's a problem at work and your fucking boss isn't around? Like, you gotta figure that shit out.
Like even us at 24. Somebody said you gotta get to like 50 years old to realize how young you are in your 20s. Even us in our 20s, we have been in the beginning of the real world, but we're not like there yet, because there's so much shit that hasn't happened, that's gonna test our strength. You know what I'm saying? That just hasn't happened yet. Like parents getting older, financial struggles. You know, like right now, like I'm single, you live here with your girlfriend, there's 2 people for you, 1 person for me. It's easy financial situation. We can take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
We'll let the kids come and like certain things like that.
Kids, you get some pets for the kids. They overfeed
so,
the
like,
pets.
There's a whole real world we haven't seen yet. So like for sure, we're not that old yet.
So you're out. Take me through this then. So you what's going on? Are you looking to meet someone then? Do you want to meet somebody? Would that be a goal of yours, or is that something you're just like, if it happens?
If it happens,
not
man,
worried
I
about
have
it.
never been the guy that like, oh, it's time for a girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? That's like, I do stand-up comedy. I'm a podcaster and a journalist. Like I have a lot of goals, and it's just when you have that type of mindset, looking for a woman just doesn't come with it.
Yeah.
Like you're not wired to be the type of guy that looks for a woman. It's like, you know, women come around, things happen, and when something serious happens, it will happen.
You'll let it
exactly.
happen that way. Yeah. Do you think being a stand-up comic, if and when people like find that out, maybe a girl you're speaking to or whatever, do you think that that would be a red flag or a turn on for them?
Depending on the girl. That's a good question, man, because I've seen both.
Yeah, because that's what I have a joke that I'm trying to work on about being a podcaster and that being a red flag.
That's a red flag.
Because it is.
I don't like talking.
Yeah,
I don't like telling people that like right out the gate.
Oh, I don't tell them at all. I'm like, they find out on their own. They're like, I followed you on Instagram. I saw you got tagged in some podcast. What is that? I'm like, oh shit. Like, I'm not trying to tell you about that. Like,
yeah, that's a red flag.
People,
for sure.
people, if that's your first thing coming out of your mouth, like someone's like, hey, I'm so and so. I have a podcast. I'm like, fuck, dude. God damn, I'm like, this guy is, some InfoWars, scary shit right here.
I like some Andrew Tate shit.
Yeah.
Women need to stay in their place.
Oh,
like some shit like that.
Yeah. Have you ever had an instance maybe where you're kind of chatting with somebody and maybe it comes up and then the reaction you got was not what you were looking for?
So I was actually out on a date last week, and it came up that I do stand-up comedy, because she actually has me on Snapchat, and she had me on Snapchat for a minute before we went out.
Okay.
And like she saw the one I'll be posting my sets, and then she asked me how's my stand up, and I was like, it's good, it's going. And then I said, when I get good enough, like maybe you can come out and see me sometime. And she was like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't like stand up comedy. Like I'll support you, But like,
That's
just like, but a lot of girls feel this way. It's both sides. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
it's either it's a turn on or it's a red flag. Maybe to her, like the stand up comedy portion was kind of red flaggy, and she probably wouldn't have wanted to see me in that light. That's what she was saying, maybe.
yeah.
But
Anybody ever hit on you after a show?
absolutely, and then that's when that like those are the type of girls that it does work on. I think it just depends. Like, to be a stand up comedian, you have to have a lot of charisma.
Yeah.
And exaggerated charisma almost.
And charisma to anybody is usually seen as attractive.
Not all the time.
Obnoxious isn't, but if you're charismatic, I think anybody
there's
wants
a difference
charisma.
between charismatic and charming. Ladies like charming. They don't always
Maybe.
like charisma. Like Tucker Carlson from Fox News, he has charisma.
He does have charisma.
You see him pulling ladies?
I mean, I don't know with that
Maybe,
hair.
exactly.
Not with that hair.
Sean
No.
Hannity, you see these guys, Donald Trump, you see them like those guys have charisma, but I can't see them having the charm.
That's
So
fair.
it's two different things.
It's two different things.
And some girls like charisma. Like, I'm sure some girls get wet by watching Sean Hannity
I hope
get
not.
into it.
I hope not.
Liberals, we told you they're coming. The left,
He looks like
this is what they do. Like,
Sean
and
Hannity.
there are a
looks
lot
like
of ladies that probably get turned because it's charismatic. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know, man. He looks like a thum from Spy
A
Kids.
thum
bro.
from
yeah,
Spy
You know
Kids?
the little fucking thumbs.
Sean
that he
Hannity
walk
is a charismatic dude. I'll
He
give him
is.
that.
I'll
Like,
give it-
I like listening to him talk.
around. Oh no.
I don't always.
No, I don't fucking listen to him speak ever. His voice, my ears start bleeding. I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, no, he's got some charisma.
I
I'll
don't
give him that.
agree with him, but I like to hear what he has to say.
You turn that on before you go to sleep. You just in the headphones, gonna lean back, listen to some Sean Hannity. Listen,
Like, I like to hear it, and that's charisma.
listen
like,
to some
you know
dog
what I'm saying?
whistles.
Like, his charismatic power forces you to at least hear him out.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about stand-up. Like, that's the thing comics have, a good comic will have. And I don't know if all women will be into that.
That's
Because
fair.
it's a little forceful, too.
Yeah.
I feel like women like sensitivity, a little softer, you know what I mean?
And everybody's different.
So, like, those are the
know?
little cues about stand-up comedy that might turn them, because they'll instantly think, oh, you're a goofball. You play
Yeah.
too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I think people could confuse like a stage, which is like a heightened persona, with
Mhm.
like your actual
Yeah.
personality, right? And then they might be like, oh, they might think you're one way, or think you really think something that you joked about.
But you know something that's funny? Most stand-up comedians are completely opposite from how they are on stage. A lot of stand-ups are actually really shy people.
Yeah.
Very shy people. Like, it takes, obviously, like, after a while, after going to these open mics often enough, you're going to, like, start creating friends that you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
But, like, when you first come, and it takes months, like, even to the day, like, just stand-up comedians were, like, very awkward, self-conscious people, you know what I'm saying?
I think you almost have to be a little bit to be good at it, like to be good at the thing, because
that's what you have to be a self-conscious person to be observant.
Yeah.
Or a conscious
To be
person
extra observant, right?
To be extra
Yeah.
observant, and that's what makes a good comic, is the observation, pointing out things that other people may not have seen.
Yeah.
You know
And
what I
that
mean?
comes from being insecure about everything, or worried about things, or even anxious and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So yeah, that makes sense. What I guess the last thing on the dating scene is what's the most wild thing someone's ever said to you as like a pickup line or trying to get your number?
I like your face.
I like your face.
That's not that bad though.
That's
It's a little blunt coming
It's
from
blunt, but
yeah.
I mean
that's
that
one
works.
that's one that stuck with me.
That works on men though. That
You
doesn't work
think?
the other way around. I don't think. I think that's one that I could say. I think if I went up to a girl and was like, "I like your face," they'd think I'm dominant. You know, they think that's what they'd think. They're not gonna be like, "Wow, I'm gonna."
I
whatever.
like your face.
You know,
That's
it's
funny.
not gonna work. Other way
But
around.
like, yeah, that was
maybe.
very. I never got like that. I never got it that blunt before. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it throw you
Mhm.
off a little bit. Drop
Yeah.
your guard. That's
Yeah,
fair.
oh my God, it's a little bit.
Yeah,
But when
yeah.
you said that, yeah, that was a recent one.
She rizzed you up.
That's Riz.
Yeah, that's Riz right
That's
there.
female Riz. What
That's
do you think the
female.
difference between female Riz and male Riz is?
I think if it were like a video game and you had to have like level up with experience, I think it takes a lot less experience to have the Riz if you're a woman.
So it's like a woman Riz is like playing with the game sliders all the way up.
Yeah, you're turning
Okay.
the 3-point slider all the way up in
you.
2K.
I got you.
Yeah. It's I think you have a joke similar.
I do. Yeah,
I'm not gonna tell you.
I didn't want to because I already gave out 2 jokes today,
Yeah.
so I don't want to.
No,
give out
I don't want
another
you
one.
to either. But it popped into my head right when you said that. Then that's funny. What's this too? What's the funniest thing someone's ever assumed about you? Something that cracked you up after you thought about it.
A girl?
Anybody.
Or?
Could be a girl. Could be anybody. Could be another comic. Could be somebody at work.
Actually, I'm gonna combine this with the last question you just asked. The other day, I was at the High Note after an open mic, and they started to do their karaoke. So there were a bunch of like Marquette girls that started to come in, and one of them, she was like talking to me, and she told me, I forgot how this came up. Oh, because I asked her if she was going up and like I forgot if she was gonna do any like karaoke, and she was like, no, I already went up. They didn't have my favorite song, "Fuck the Police" by NWA. So
that's fucking weird, bro.
So
Did
like
she say that like hoping
I
that
swear
would
to God, bro, this literally just happened on Friday.
That's hilarious.
Just last Friday.
That's like real life, like virtue signaling, like real life virtue
Literally,
signal
like,
tweeting.
Jesus fuck, man.
So I just want you to know, I don't know you at all, but I love NWA.
I
love
hate
them.
the police.
I fucking hate those guys.
So it's just funny. So that's why I said I'll be combined the last 2 questions.
Wow.
Because like thinking about it now, that's probably the weirdest pickup line.
That's a wild thing to say.
And then or one of the weirdest. And then the fact that she just assumed I hate the police because I'm black.
Yeah, that's like fucking hilarious, dude. Holy shit. Do you think too, it kind of knowing, because obviously, I'm gonna say this, man. You really do. You've been conducting yourself very well when I've been watching. I've seen you perform a few times, like I was saying, in stand-up comedy. And as somebody who's looking to get into it, taking notes on what people do and how they carry themselves. Do you think the tools that you've been learning in stand-up comedy help you to maybe like see the funny in life a little bit more now that you've been getting better at that? Because at first I feel like maybe when you're getting into stand-up, you're like, okay, what are the things I think are funny? Like, let me try to figure out how to set up punchline, whatever. And now that you already have kind of like the basics of the tools down, you think you're seeing it more and more? Because I mean, even like a situation like that, there's no way you, like some girl says that to you and you're like, this is fucking hilarious. Like, this is wild. Like, obviously it's fucked up, but it's definitely funny.
It's
like,
definitely, yeah, absolutely. It makes it creates more of a sense of humor, and you just let go more.
Yeah.
That's why like a lot of comedians don't. Things are never that serious, man.
Yeah.
Never that serious.
That's why I think it'd be more. I don't know. That's something again where I've been just going to like comedy clubs to try to just be around comedians more, because that's what like the kind of people I want to be around.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like I don't want to have to like walk on eggshells for every single thing I'm talking about. And like, sometimes
Like,
you just want to say some funny shit.
Like they will literally like comedians like. I don't do roast battles because I'm too sensitive for roast battles.
I wouldn't be able to handle.
I don't
that
want
either.
someone to say shit to me that's gonna hurt my feelings, and now I'm just on stage stuttering, stuck, don't know what to say back to them.
Yeah.
Like that's double the embarrassment of stand up. Like
Yeah.
this, like not only are you bombing, you're also bombing while being grilled.
Yeah.
Like so.
Yeah, it's
so
like getting
no.
crossed up and then getting pissed on.
My
That's
God,
what that is.
literally,
That's what that is.
literally. I stay far away from roasting as possible.
Yeah.
But the fact that like stand up comics actually do that as a sport, and like they do this like once a month, they have in the Milwaukee scene and all over the country, like all circuits will have a roast session where all the comics get together. They put one comic up versus another, and they just go at it.
God damn.
A roast session. And comedians love this.
Yeah.
They're good sports about this. It brings them closer together. It's a weird sight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow. I could see
like,
it.
It just teaches like shit's really not that serious.
Yeah.
Man. People are out here bullying you about your biggest flaws and fuck ups in life, and you're just all, yeah, we all have flaws and we all fuck up. Let's just laugh about it together.
It's almost like, dude, I feel like that. You know what? When you were speaking on that, it made me think of like almost like working out in a sense, where it's like, to build a muscle, you got to tear it down and it's going to rebuild stronger. And doing something like that, putting yourself in an environment where everything is going to be out in the open and nothing's off limit, you're going to get torn to shreds.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's going to make it a lot easier to get back up on stage and do a regular comedy set.
Yeah, it does for sure.
Yeah,
that's all. It's also just helps you in life too. That's why a lot of I know my brother has been trying to get into stand up lately because his the therapist he's been seeing recommended it. And
that's a wild therapist. That's
no,
a wild
but a lot of I also met another person whose therapist recommended it.
What the
You have to think about it though, because like if somebody is dealing with fear of trying new things, and fear of judgment of other people, what is the best way to just like that you can have easy access to that is cost efficient? It doesn't cost anything to go to an open mic and put your name down.
I guess cost efficient.
Force yourself to get over that fear of people judging you. Get over that fear of not doing well at not
something
exactly
because you're new to it, so you're not going to do
exactly. And just that fear of trying new things. And stand up is probably the most frightening thing somebody could think of that we have easy access to. Like,
I was gonna say I disagree, but then when you brought up the point that it's free, to perform an open mic most of the time, I think you are right in that sense. Because I would say like maybe yoga or a dance class would be a little less like you're gonna be embarrassed because everyone's gonna know you don't know what you're doing, but you're not gonna be like, let's all stare at this person and fucking they're gonna feel like shit because they fuck up.
It's kind of like throwing a kid into the pool and teaching them how to swim that way as opposed to giving them swimming lessons. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying?
But
like
both work.
Both work. Like
the swimming lessons, you might be a better swimmer. If I'm a therapist, I'm just saying maybe I would suggest we put some floaties on first. If I'm getting paid to make people happier and healthier. I
understand that.
But I think you're right in the sense that
I don't think they're saying try stand up and go be a stand up comedian, a professional comedian.
I think you're right.
Just do it as an exercise.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Exactly. Right? If you're a person who's afraid of like being open about yourself and things about your life in front of other people, do one of the hardest things and like do that. And then when you get off, you'll realize you're still alive. You have all your legs and your fingers and you're still good. Yeah. And that's going to make you feel a little better.
Unless you go into cardiac
smaller
arrest.
Things, you just did stand-up comedy. Are you telling me okay, so let's say you are someone who had a hard time introducing yourself to new people. Yeah. You just did a whole set of stand-up comedy. And you had 30 people watching you, all eyeballs on you. Nobody's talking, silence in the room, and they're all staring at you. You just did that. So after you do that, that's going to give you the confidence like, okay, of course I can go walk up to this person and introduce myself and be a little bit more social. So I feel like that's the angle that therapists are using.
I can see that.
Coming from when they recommend
when they're suggesting it. That makes sense. I could see that perspective of it. I think that's interesting though. It's definitely funny. I think somebody out there who's going through it in their head is like, man, maybe I should try stand up, and then they're gonna do it and slip and fall before they even get up on stage. And they're gonna be holding a drink, and the glass is gonna shatter. Yeah. And their hand's going to be sliced open. And they're going to just try to power through it because the therapist said they're going to walk up there holding the blood. And they're going to be like, okay, my therapist said, and then try to make it. And it's, I can see it right now. Don't do it. If that's you, don't do it. But hopefully I didn't scare somebody off. A couple more questions for you before we wrap up. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get into your joke because I don't want to give away all your jokes. I want people to come see you perform. But you do have a joke that talks about OnlyFans, and I don't want to get into it fully. But I'm curious, how much money do you think you would make if you started OnlyFans? How much do you think? Or what would it take? I guess first, what would it take in your life to get you to a place where you would start one?
Oh, I gotta be down bad. I couldn't, man. I couldn't do anything like this. My family, bro. Yeah. Seriously.
Well, like you could have an alias.
Is I don't understand the shame. Like, go. My thing is, do what you want to do. Everybody has like freedom of choice. Mm-hmm. But the shame, like.
You shame people that do OnlyFans?
No, I'm not shaming people. I'm saying,
but you
the
think you would be shamed
that you're gonna bring on your family.
You think so? I don't know. I think maybe depends. I don't think I could do it.
myself as like a father of a girl. If I see I will be heartbroken.
Yeah.
That'll be the biggest heartbreak of my life.
Yeah.
Worse than anything. Imagine seeing your daughter on Pornhub, bro.
Pornhub's different though. I think OnlyFans is different because OnlyFans, they're their own boss. They're not being exploited. They're choosing the money.
That's just junior high Pornhub.
Yeah, I agree in some cases, but I think there are a lot of girls that have never been on Pornhub that make way more money. They're not being exploited, and they own the means of production. Like, they own their own shit, so like they can't be fucked with. And I respect that. I think
your whole stuff is still out there.
For sure. I totally see that. And some people aren't okay with it. I'm not okay with that. That's why I don't do it. But
a man should not be able to tell a woman what to do and what he thinks they should do. I'll never do that. All power be to you. You know, do what you want to do as a woman. I'm all for it. But I just think there's a shame there that a lot of girls are being, let's say, selfish, in my opinion, and not looking at how that choice may be affecting their family. Because I'm just thinking about what if I'm a dad and I see my baby girl on OnlyFans, my heart will be broken.
Yeah. Why?
Shattered. She's on OnlyFans. What do you mean, why?
I'm curious because I think that I agree with you. I think there would be, but I just don't know if that. I don't know if it's right. You know, I don't know if maybe we should feel shame if someone decides to do, like, I'm trying to picture if it were your brother, if you were your son, if your son was like, Dad, I'm gonna be a porn star. I'm gonna own.
Thing.
But he goes, Dad, just like you did all your own shit. You had your own podcast, your own journalism. I own my own cameras. I'm doing everything myself. I own the whole shit. I only shoot with the girls I want to shoot with when I want to shoot with, and I'm happy. Are you gonna be ashamed?
I'm not gonna be ashamed. I won't be disappointed at him or her, but I'll be disappointed. There's a difference between being disappointed and being disappointed at the person.
Okay. What are you disappointed with then, if that in this fake scenario that we've created? Because I gotta remind everyone this is fake. This is not real.
Actually daughters on OnlyFans.
We're joking right now.
I'll be disappointed with the style he or her chose to live, the lifestyle. Like, that's not what I would have wanted as a parent, but they are a human being and a grown adult, so it's not my place to like impound it on them.
So you failed.
But I wouldn't say I failed.
Just kidding.
I wouldn't blame it on myself.
I'm just kidding.
That's what this is still
yeah.
Fictional, but I wouldn't say I failed. But it will just hurt me as a parent. It will hurt. It will hurt. And so of course that's a hurt you're gonna have to get over.
Yeah.
But it'll hurt.
So how much money if it was like guaranteed that you would make X amount of dollars, would it take for you to do OnlyFans? Even for a month? Couldn't do it. Damn. Not even if it was no face? I respect it.
Oh, no face? Like put on a mask?
Yeah, or just...
Okay, we're talking some bucks.
You got to think, too, I do think...
If I'm hiding identity...
There's plenty of porn stars, porn couples out there now that don't show either face.
That's...
Guy or girl. And they live a life.
That's reasonable.
And they just... I mean, the stuff we're there to see is what's coming off of him and what's at the end of her, right? I don't need to, if, the viewership will pay for if you got a good body.
I'm not there to see what's coming off of him. I don't give a damn what's coming off.
I mean, yeah, I guess whatever. But that's where the shit's happening. That's where the action's happening, right? So what if it was just that? This is me trying to get you to start an OnlyFans now, fucking coercing you into starting an OnlyFans.
Trying to get me into business.
Yeah, trying to help you with make some money. Because for me, man,
that was my daughter. And she's doing that with her husband.
Maybe you don't even know about it. It's under an alias.
If I don't know about it, I'm cool. Don't let me know about it.
So what would it take for you to do it? Even if it was if you did it, you got an alias. Let's say you come up with
an
a cool
alias,
cool
a mask,
name,
a lot of money.
Okay.
And
because I'm broke, man. I'm a broke artist.
More than 20,000 a video.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Everybody has a price.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I got a price for sure, dude. Yeah. I think, dude, if I knew I was going to be set and I could just focus on the rest of my art and I didn't have to show my face, I'd be doing that shit.
You think?
Yeah, I think. I don't know. It would take me a lot. I don't know if I have the courage, I'm not that gifted down there, but we'll see. We'll see what I could do, Maybe I could work the angles right.
Yeah, I couldn't, man.
I think if the money was right and I was that down bad that I wanted to.
I could never look at my mom in her eyes again. If she knows and saw that video and she knows that shit is, I could never look at either of my parents in the eyes again.
Mm. What do you
I
say?
couldn't even look
What
at
about
my
parents that
siblings
have
in the
walked in
eyes.
on their kids?
That's different.
But it's kind of similar. It's almost worse. They were real. They had a ticket
different.
to the show. They were there in person.
First of all, you're coming in my room.
That's invasion of privacy.
That's invasion of privacy. Exactly. You see the difference? You're coming in my room. I'm putting this shit on the internet.
But
like at the end of the day, we still I know freedom of choice, but like we're not here alone at the end of the day. Like we still are a reflection of our families, and our families are a reflection of us. As corny as it sounds, I just can't put my family.
So here's one more thing I want.
Like it's not right to them. Like I want to be the porn star. They don't.
And I'm just kind of pressing you and messing with you a little bit.
Like imagine somebody's brother, like
well, do you think,
and your sister's a porn? That's gonna come up everywhere.
Well, do you think then if you had like a family member
that's too much
that had like something else that's an undesirable trait, like maybe you had a family member that was battling like an addiction, or maybe they did something terrible to themselves or somebody else. Would you or you had a friend maybe whose brother killed somebody, right? Yes. And so now, like, would you look at your friend differently because of that, or would you just because he's still your friend?
I wouldn't look at him differently because of that.
So maybe you shouldn't look at people differently whose daughter does OnlyFans.
Maybe's all day, but people are still gonna do it. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Like, I just like put that into perspective. Like, just imagine someone's brother and his sister is a porn star. And they went to middle school together or whatever. Like everyone knew their brother and sister. They went off to high school together. Let's say she graduates. Now she's 19. He's still in high school. He's 17. She's a porn star. Everyone knew she used to go here last year. Yeah. Now she's on the internet as a fan. Think about the depression you just gave your brother. It's gonna be there. You can sure tell him to be a good person and understand that's your sister's life, but at the end of the day, people are gonna grill your brother. Your brother's gonna feel shame because he's a 17-year-old boy, and like it wasn't his choice. Yeah, and now your choice because you wanted to do that so bad, it's starting to affect your family. If you're about the art, make videos at home and.
I don't know. I
put them on the shelf.
I agree and disagree. Where
you know how many people actually like do that? They make pornos with their significant other because they like that feeling, like watching it later on. Yeah, and they just keep it for themselves.
I get that. I agree with the picture you painted, where I do think that what you just laid out could and probably does happen. Yeah. But I think that maybe the response is where I would disagree. I just don't think like it's almost the same thing of if you've ever been like hooping at an open gym. And somebody has a sister, and somebody's like, oh, so-and-so, like one of the guys there is dating the sister, or did date the sister. Like, he fucked somebody's sister. And then somebody tries to, like, start some shit. It's like, if somebody came to me and was like, oh, I fucked your sister, I'd be like, cool. Oh, your sister's a fucking porn star. I'd be like, shit, hopefully I can see some money. Hopefully I get some better gifts this year for Christmas.
See, you're about better. You're a good dude.
I guess I just don't care enough. It's like the same thing, too, where I know a lot of guys, like, a lot of guys get really upset. They're like, I would never date an OnlyFans model. I would never date a porn star. Here's the thing. If I met somebody and they weren't doing porn and then we were dating and all of a sudden into the relationship, they're like, you know what, Darren? I still love you. I still want to be together, but I kind of want to get into some gangbang porn. Like, I want to start doing that. Then I'd be like, okay, no, we're good. I'm not doing something, right? Yeah. But if like I met somebody at a bar, at a club, whatever, cute person where we get off well, we hang out, we start seeing each other, and I find out that is their job, and maybe they're done with it, maybe they're still doing it. I've
actually met a porn star before.
I don't think I would be like someone that's like, oh, I'm gonna tell you can't work that, and I'm gonna cut this relationship off now. Like if they were already had done porn or they were already doing it before I met them, I don't think I have the right to be like, if I like them, I like them. You know, if that's what they fucking do, that's what they do. Granted, the other way, if it was,
you don't have to, definitely have the right.
I have the right to not want to be in the relationship, but I don't have the right to tell them that they shouldn't do that.
Oh, no. That's let me be clear. Yeah. I agree with that. Like, you don't have the right to say, oh, you shouldn't do porn, but you have the right to feel some type of way. Yeah. Because, like, it will spill over to the people around you. It just will. Yeah. You know what I mean? And,
I guess I don't
have the right to be like, this is too much. I can't take this.
Yeah. You can 100%. I guess, I would say if you enjoy the person for real, then I think that shit will fade away, right? If you love your sister and that's what she does, and you guys are cool, then like people are gonna talk shit. People are gonna talk shit. People are gonna talk shit if your sister's a fucking doctor. They're gonna be like, dude, your sister was a bitch in high school. She was da 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 da. She thinks she whatever on Instagram. I'm so annoyed. It's not the same. It's not the same. People still gonna talk shit. Like no matter what you do, people are gonna talk shit.
I don't know. That's a tough feat, man.
It is different being a doctor and an OnlyFans star. I'm not saying they're the same, but
getting obliterated on the internet. And
probably making more money than that doctor though.
Well,
in some cases.
In some cases, exactly. That's another misconception.
Yeah.
That porn stars make money.
Yeah. Well, I would say OnlyFans girls usually make better than porn stars, just because there's no companies involved.
The top earners, most girls on OnlyFans don't even make money.
That's true. That's true too. Yeah.
But top earners, that's the thing. They're like, people see all of these top earners making a lot of money on OnlyFans. Because they see like they're thousands of top earners, but they're millions of girls on OnlyFans. So of course the 1% is gonna have thousands of girls. Sounds like a lot, right?
Yeah.
You see thousands of Instagram models making 6 figures to 7 figures on OnlyFans.
Yeah.
But there are tens of millions of girls who are registered on OnlyFans making nothing.
Oh yeah, I mean it's the same thing with comedy, same thing with music, right?
Exactly.
Where there's a million people putting songs out on Spotify every day, but there's only 1%.
See thousands succeeding at it, so you think, okay, thousands.
I can
like
do it.
that exactly, but there are millions trying to get that thousands of jobs.
But if you got a dream, go for it.
Go for it, absolutely.
Go for it. We'll be here supporting you.
OnlyFans is your dream. Please go for OnlyFans.
Go for it, man.
Don't listen to me and get discouraged by my big head.
No, bro, I appreciate you coming on the show today, man. I mean, fucking super funny guy, man, on stage especially. And here today we got to crack some jokes as well. Phenomenal journalist, like I said, and he's got his podcast as well. I want you to what's next, man, and plug your stuff before we wrap today.
What is next with my podcast? Right now, I'm closing in on an interview with a gentleman from Milwaukee who's the founder of an organization called Heal the Hood. So it's an organization that comes together and they're trying to find holistic ways to kind of just clean up the Milwaukee hood, bring down crime rates, homicide rates, and
help out the area in general.
And specifically the black community here.
Very dope, dude. That'll be exciting. We'll be looking forward to that. And plug the podcast one last time for people that are just checking it.
The Greatly Destined Podcast on YouTube. That's the Greatly Destined Podcast on YouTube. The TGD Podcast, so TGD Podcast on Instagram and TGD Podcast on TikTok.
And then what's I don't have the Instagram handle off the top of my head. What's your Instagram handle, just so people can, because I want people to come see you perform too, some stand-up comedy.
Zay_Okwata. So Zay ZAY_OKWATN.
Phenomenal, man. Well, I appreciate you for being here, man. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you for inviting me, man. Thank you.
Of course, man. And I want to say thank you to anybody who tuned in live tonight. If you're watching days after over on YouTube or over on Spotify or here on YouTube, thank you as well. I want to say a quick shout out to our patrons. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. If you guys are interested in getting behind the scenes access to extra podcasts, a series where I break down how I mix master every single one of my songs, as well as some behind the scenes and extra footage of vlogs and stuff like that, go to patreon.com/Darren Rita. You can help support the channel for as little as $1. And also a quick shout out to Kenosha Auto Insurance for sponsoring this episode. This has been the 191st episode of the Dtalks podcast. I will see you guys next week. Peace.